Sergey Drachev photo here, shooting from a temporary base in Kissimmee, Florida. 55 F, 17 Celsius plus. Some people ask me about my thoughts on the Sigma 150-600, and I think I'm in a good position to compare these three lenses like that most people are looking at: Sigma, Tamron, G1 and now G2, and Nikkor 200-500. I had Nikkor, I had Tamron G1, didn't try G2, and now I have Sigma. So Sigma comes in this nice, case, and to put it briefly, I'm really impressed with this lens. It seems lighter. Like both this one and Tamron seem lighter, and I don't know, the craftsmanship, the way it's done, it's pretty impressive, Like it locks over here, so there's no creep, If you're just walking, you can lock. And there's a bunch of controls over here, but mostly, just like most, there's a custom thing here. So if you get a Sigma dock, you can program that. It's like off, CO1, CO2, I have no idea what it is, but mostly, like I left the AF mode on, right? But there's two switches here. You can switch to manual, right? And then the second one is you can cut the range of focusing, just like on Nikkor. You can do it full or 10 meters or 2.8 to 10 meters. I keep it on full, and I would say the most important switch is this one. That's your stabilization. Position 1 is regular image stabilization when you're shooting, when you're not panning. And position 2, there's like sports mode, they call it on some, right? It's when you're panning, and so it creates cool pictures. I tried that one. It really helps with when shooting birds in flight. And so I'm shooting with D500, and I had D7500 and D7200. So so the quality is, I don't know, pretty good. Sometimes when the camera cannot focus, I found that all images are not exactly sharp. Like the other day I was shooting birds over here right in front of the hotel. There's a little creek, and first day I was surprised. I saw a wood stork, and I saw a couple of big, I don't know, I think they're herons, but they had a red on their beak, but a big bird. And they're just walking around. I think people here feed them, right? So, and there was a couple of benches in there. So I just went to the benches, and I usually do like this. I put my elbows, if I can find a support like a barrister, when they have sometimes some wildlife refuge areas, they have like a boardwalks, right, with rails. And I put my both elbows like this, and this gives me, and I'm just holding it like this. I put this foot underneath, yeah. And so one nuisance about this is, sorry, let me just finish that thought. And so I was shooting these birds, and they were turning away from the sun, but even when they were turned towards the sun, it was like middle of the day, because all the eyes were black, and the head around the eyes was black, and so it was difficult for the camera to focus because there's no contrast. And if you look at the actual Nikon in the guide, it says in what position, in what situations autofocus can fail, and you will see there. So it's quite often it's not the fault of the lens, it's just its conditions are too difficult for a camera, even outside. And so those were, I magnified the eye on each bird, and I was, I don't know, 7 meters away, 20 feet. I thought I would have great shots. like that wood stalk were just looking at me, coming towards me like really close, and I checked the eye, not sharp, you know. And then the other day, yesterday, I went to Gatorland with the same combo, and I was careful. Maybe at that time I forgot to increase my shutter speed. I don't know. I was just driving. I had been driving for like 6 hours straight without stopping from Savannah, Georgia, up down here. And so I went to Gatorland. I used you know, a very short shutter speed, like thousandths of a second at least for a stationary bird. You know, 2, 3, 4 thousandths of a second for a flying bird. And I don't know, for flying birds I used stabilization number 2 and just fast shutter speed, and I would shut down the aperture a little bit. I don't know, gorgeous pictures. I'll post them at the end of this video. But if you saw my previous video, Gatorland, Florida, you'll see those pictures. I was even able to submit them to a stock agency, and they passed all technical criteria. So now I have those 3 pictures. Well, now I'm adding 4 more, but the first 3 they approved, and they on sale now, you know, made with this combo, with this lens and with this camera. Now somebody said, let me check, one guy was asking me, when does the, at what, sorry, it's locked, at what millimeter focal length does it switch to 6. Okay, 400. Okay, so 300 it's 5.6. 400. So 400 millimeters, the lens already is at f6. And then if you keep going, 5. Okay, 550. Oh, maybe that's why some people are saying that, you know, it's not sharp at the long end, because it's actually interesting. I never did this before myself. So 400 millimeters, the lens switches to f6. 550 millimeters, it switches to the last one, the biggest opening, 6.3. So probably, yeah, it doesn't gather as much light after 550 millimeters. But I don't know. I'm quite happy, you know, as long as they're not trying to take pictures of, you know, like sports photography inside a room with dark, you know, with low light conditions. But I don't know, on a crop sensor camera, I like that it gives me just a little bit more reach, right? It's like 900 millimeters actual, and I realize the limitations. You know, I just, you know, increase my shutter speed, you know, make it like, you know, f7, whatever, f8 to compensate. And I wanted to tune it because D500 has, of course, auto AF tune, but I messed up something with the focus, with the AF focusing system there, and it says not available with these focus mode selections. I don't know what that was all about, but I was able to tune Tamron, this small lens over here. This one had 0 at 10 millimeters, required +2 at 15 millimeters, and +6 at 24. So now I think I need to buy a Tamron console, because Nikon only allows you 1 correction for the entire zoom range, whereas console, this tap console from Tamron, I checked the specs, it allows you 3 different you know, corrections. So I'll be able to put this, you know, like the same 0 for 10, +2 for 15, you know, perfect, and +6 for 24 millimeters, which is 35. That's why I like this lens. 10 millimeters, 15 effective, gorgeous, you know. Just requires a little bit of correction. And so to come back to this lens, so the image quality is, I don't see any difference between the Nikon and this one. Tamron was much worse, you know. At first I had actually Nikon, which is in Canada is like $1,750 Canadian plus tax, pretty much like $1,900, you know. And then I sold it, and I tried to try this cheaper Tamron, which costs the same as this. This is of course contemporary, not sport. This is contemporary Sigma 150 to 600. And Tamron was not sharp at 600, period. You know, I tried a whole bunch of pictures, like even there was I took a shot of a city in the distance. Like the colors were nice. Colors were actually kind of like artsy, you know. Like I like the colors. I think for landscapes it would be a great lens, as long as you don't go all the way to 600 millimeters. I'm talking about Tamron. But I had trouble, you know, and I was shooting with a no, I think I had the D7200. Maybe this one is a bit better because the focusing system is good up to -4 EV, at least the center point. But this combo works great. So now, so what I like, image quality, lightweight, quick focusing, I don't know, good, you know, material, like the way it's built. The build is nice. And not too heavy. I already mentioned that one. And it comes with its own bag. Now what I don't like is that this foot is too short. Like on a Nikon, it's like this long, you know. Because you see, I only pretty much can put my 2 fingers in here. So normally, when I'm somewhere in the field carrying it around, when I had a Nikon, I would put it exactly like this, like the foot is at the bottom of the camera, so that I can put it like this when shooting birds, right, handheld. And so then I would just carry it like this, like the Nikon, and I was able to put 3 fingers in there. Well, here, yeah, it's, you see, it's like 2.5. Well, my fingers are not exactly small, but if somebody has small hands, maybe, but it's like really awkward. So I used to carry Nikon like this, the lens facing forward. So now what I'm doing with this one, and what I had to do is flip it around and do like this, because this way my finger can go closer to the lens, and this way I'm almost able to fit 3 fingers. And so now I'm carrying this lens like this, you know. So that's just a bit awkward. I don't know why these guys didn't think about this. Like, how are you gonna walk around with this? You know, it's still heavy, right? They do give you one cool thing is that you don't see that on the Nikon. You have this over here, but there was another strap you can put in here, but I never tried it. I don't know how strong it is, you know. Like, I don't trust it, because with the camera is like almost, what, 900 grams, 800 grams, and this one is almost 2 kilos, you know. So I don't know, that strap, well, first of all, it'll be hanging like this at an angle, you know. But maybe I'll try that one. Maybe I'll just put a strap in here, and then you can put it around your shoulder. And another thing that some people don't like about Sigmas is that, you know, the direction of the zoom is different from Tamron and Nikon. I may be mistaken, but at least Nikon's 100%. So to go, you see, like now I'm at 150 millimeters. To go to zoom in, I turn left, right? And then I turn this way. But on a Nikon, you can never do this in one movement. Like, it's difficult. Like the range, even though it's only 200 to 500, on this one, what I do is I flip the camera. So I'm holding like this, and I'm also, you know, turning the camera a little bit, and this way I can quickly go to let's say 600 millimeters, you know. So I don't know. I would buy this lens again, you know, in a heartbeat. And maybe that's why Tamron, when Tamron realized that they were not measuring up to the competition, they came up with Generation 2 lens, right? Whereas Sigma never updated this one, right? There's only the Contemporary, which is much lighter, but not weatherproof. That's one drawback, you know. And then there's Sports, which is like, you know, 100 times heavier and more money, and maybe slightly better image quality, but it's weatherproof. And that's it. See, Sigma didn't come up with any updates, and I think they did it because they felt that it's better than Tamron G1, you know. And again, so my feeling is that this lens is on par with Nikon, you know. Like I said, I don't see any differences whatsoever. You know, like Nikon was not perfect either at the long end sometimes, you know. And also, again, so 500 millimeters, on D500, that's 750, right? This one gives me 900. Okay, let's say I dial back a little bit, let's say 850, but still that's 100 extra millimeters, you know? You know, if you want to keep it, let's say you don't want to zoom in all the way to 600 millimeters, but let's say you want to keep it to 550 where you still have f6 instead of f6.3. So yeah, I learned something myself today. I never looked at this. When does the aperture change? And so once again, it changes to 6 at 4. No, wait, 5, right? What did I say? Changes to 5. No, it changes to, sorry, 400 millimeters. Yeah, 6. Okay. So it changes to f6 at 400 millimeters, and it changes to f6.3 at 550 millimeters. So this was a quick review, and I've been using it. I didn't use it that much, but I went to like what is it called, wildlife car drive near Savannah, Georgia. I shot some pics over there, and then I shot pics over here when I had this little stream over here, and then I went to Gatorland, and so far I'm quite happy. So this would be a great combo for somebody to start, you know. And I'm not sure about US, but also in Canada, you know, we get better deals on warranty always. That's why sometimes I see cheaper prices in the States, because I'm from Canada, right? So I see cheaper prices in US, let's say on the same, you know, after conversion on the camera and the lens. But most of the time, you guys over here in the States, you get like 1-year warranty, right? Sigma default warranty in Canada, what was it, 6 years? Yeah, I think it was 6. I left the box at home. Tamron, Sigma, in Canada you get a lot of warranty, you know. And yeah, it also came with a hood, but it was so bulky I don't have space, so I left it at home. So this is it. That's the baby. I'm shooting wildlife, and I'm hoping to do some landscapes, believe it or not. Oh, and that's one more thing I like about this compared to Nikon, is that when I had that 200 millimeter effective 300, and let's say I want to do a landscape, you know, something like a mountain landscape where, you know, mountains of course are very far away, and I found that 300 millimeters was a bit too much. You know, I was getting too close. I was cutting off edges of my frame that I had in mind. Whereas this one, 150 effective 225, you know, at least it's shorter. So I just find this focal range a bit more useful. And if you can save money, like when I got this on Christmas, this in Canada again, D500 came with, first of all, it was cheaper by like $500, and that's why I bought it. Before I was saying some bad things about this camera, but you know, let's admit it, mostly because it was so overpriced in my opinion. But on Christmas it went down by $500 Canadian, and on Boxing Day, right before the New Year, Boxing Day in Canada, they were giving away a $200 gift card, but you cannot use it for the camera itself, but I used it for the lens. So the guy just did 2 purchases, you know, instead of doing camera and lens on one bill, he had to do 2, and I saved $200 off the lens, you know. Like, you cannot just beat a deal like that. And so if somebody is on a tight budget, you know, maybe some stores still have you know, New Year sales, like Christmas sales, and some of them keep going, right? But I find that December, around Christmas time, is the best time to buy, you know, photography gear, cameras and lenses. So thanks for watching. This was a quick review by Sergey Drachev from Orlando, Florida. Stay cool, stay warm, stay out of the cold, whatever you are, or stay out of the heat. Take care.